So welcome everybody to Candlelight Yin. Now at my house it's dark and I've got some candles, but I also have a little light so that you can see me, because I discovered if I didn't use the light, it was basically just hanging out in the dark and hoping for the best. So there's a little bit of a light on right now, but hopefully at your house it's nice and peaceful. So I'm going to start with this yoga bolster, and if you're fancy and you have a yoga bolster, you can start with one of those. If you don't have that, you can take any blanket that you have nearby and fold it so that you've got kind of a bolstery shape. It's going to go under your back. You can also roll it up and do a tighter shape underneath you. So essentially we're just going to lie down with something underneath our back. It could be a couple of throw pillows as well. I've got a couple of those handy. Now, once you lay down, you're going to decide what to do with your legs. So I like to start the bottom of the blanket or the bolster right about where the bottom of my rib cage is. And then you could do knees out, feet together in this butterfly shape, or you could do straight legs. So if you want to do the butterfly shape but you want some extra support, you can put a couple of throw pillows or some yoga blocks if you actually have those too underneath you. Now, the purpose here is to get a little bit of a sense that we're opening up around the chest. So if you don't have any pillows or blankets or bolsters, you can just lie down on the floor and stretch your arms out wide, and that will do the same thing. And take a nice deep breath, and then exhale, and let yourself relax in. We're going to stay for a few moments. If you're new to Yin Yoga, it's a very slow practice. I like to refer to it as yoga at the speed of continental drift. We're going to just really pause in each pose. But we're not looking for the sensation to be really sharp or to be too intense. So if you're feeling like there's too much sensation in your low back, or it feels like there's too much sensation in a hip joint or in your knee joint, you should definitely add more support to your body, or come out of the pose, move around, and then you can come back to the pose. It's okay to, like for example, just change for a moment, windshield wiper your legs, and then come back to that butterfly with a slightly different positioning of your hips. Sometimes that's necessary and appropriate, but we do want to try to relax into the shapes. So we're going to stay here for about another 2 minutes. Just letting the body unwind from the day, and letting yourself tune into your breath. So begin to just notice if the muscles around your eyes and around your mouth are holding any tension. And as the rest of the body is sort of allowing itself to settle, see if you can relax those places too. I'm going to stay for one more minute. Point just about the 3 to 4 minute mark for me. Sometimes it happens a little earlier than that, but generally that's in the range. And I just feel like everything, finally gets the message to let go. So just for these last few breaths here, just see if you can find that sensation of everything letting go. So take one more big breath. Let it go with a big sigh. And then start with your legs. So if your legs were bent, go ahead and work them into a straighter shape. If your legs were straight, you can work them into a bent shape. And then we're going to take whatever might be underneath your back, if it's there, take that out. And then you can set that off to the side for now. And we're going to pause on our back and see what happens. So generally speaking for me, if I have used a blanket or blocks or a bolster underneath my back, there's a sense when I take them out that my back widens out and sort of spreads out along the floor, almost like a puddle or a prairie, just going out in all directions. And I find that really pleasant. Sometimes if the item that I had under me was really firm, I might just feel an impression left behind. So sometimes when I roll a blanket up really tight, it just feels like that blanket is still under there a little bit. So if you want, you can bring your knees in and kind of rock back and forth on your back if it feels better, to sort of allow yourself to stay smooth and straight and just to hang out on your back. That's fine too. Now we're going to do a pose called the banana pose, and this is a little tricky in my tiny living room, but we're going to make it work. So you're going to stretch your body out nice and long. I've got a yoga block in my way, so I'm going to scooch that. And then you're going to bend yourself like a banana. So we're going to bend the upper body, and then if you can do it, swing your lower body, the legs, over like a banana as well. Now, you can take the leg that's on the outside of the curve. So I went toward you guys. So this part of my waist is curling in, and this part of my waist is stretching. So this is my longer side. So I could take that leg and put it up on top, crossed at the ankle. And then as I let this hip get heavier, I feel a little bit more sensation in that sort of IT band area of my hip. If I get anything that feels stitchy around my back, it's helpful to come a little bit longer and a little bit less curvy. You can have the arms overhead, one palm resting in the hand, or the back of one hand resting in the palm of the other, rather. Or you can let your arms go out like a cactus, or like an airplane. And so let yourself get heavy. And we're going to pause here for a couple minutes. Now, when I first encountered this yoga pose, I didn't believe it would do anything. But when we're done, we'll see what happens. Because I think it's pretty indicative of how yin works. It's a pretty powerful pose in a package that doesn't feel powerful, which is the very definition, if you will, of yin. It's the very kind of power through softness. So if it feels abusive to your body, back off a little bit. And if everything feels like it's going along pretty well, we'll stay for another minute or so. Take nice deep breaths and see if you can feel the difference between how the lungs expand. One lung might be under a little bit of pressure and may not expand as deeply. See if you can work a little harder just to get some air way down deep into the lungs so that you're expanding and getting into all of those little tiny brachii in the lungs. So we're going to stay for about 3 more breaths here. take a nice big inhale. Exhale out a sigh. And then return to the center with all of your body parts and see if you can notice any difference between the side we just did and the side we haven't. It helps to do a little bit of jiggling. Just kind of rinse everything out. And then pause for a moment and feel. And for me, this is the thing that sold me on this pose, was that automatically this whole side of my body that was just on the long side feels like it's a little closer to the earth and much softer. It's very pleasant. And now this side, which is how my whole body felt a minute ago, or a few minutes ago, this side feels like it's lifted. It almost feels like a pipe cleaner that's been kind of bent up a little bit. It feels like it needs to have that extra space that this side has. So I suggest we do the other side. Now before you do that, you might want to do this little back massage just to kind of rinse out the sacrum, or some little windshield wipers. Getting the pelvis movement is helpful. All right, so then we're going to stretch out and we're going to curve the other way. And then you kind of figure out, given your space requirements and potential inhibitions, just figure out if you can kind of relax and lay in there. You might have to move a little bit or tuck your toes under a blanket or something. And then you can, put your wrist in your palm, or you can adjust the arms in a different way. Add some length to your pose. Once you get it settled, take a nice big breath and let go with a big ah. And sometimes those audible sighs require more than one. Again, if I've said it in other videos, but I'll say it again. One of the nerves that's responsible for our ability to relax runs through our larynx, runs through our neck. And so when we carry tension and stress in the neck, which most of us probably do, when we carry tension in the throat or the jaw, we're impacting our body's ability to rest and to be in a parasympathetic state. And so by stimulating that nerve with some vocalization, whether that's chanting or singing in the shower or a big ah, occasionally, in a yoga pose, we're helping to stimulate and tone and help our body's a relaxation response stay well tuned. Just letting yourself melt into the ground. And if there's anything that feels like a nagging discomfort in a joint, please change your pose. Sometimes for me, it's just that feeling of my body just needs time to relax. That's okay. I'll stay with those sensations. If I can keep my eyes soft and my jaw relaxed, I feel pretty good about it, and keep nice deep breaths going. But if it feels almost like you're lifting yourself up off the pose, like you're on a bed of nails, that is an indication that you're too deep. So you want to back off a bit. We'll stay for about one more minute. Nice deep breaths, noticing if the lungs have changed. So we're going to do about 3 more breaths. And let go with a big ah. And you're going to come on back to the center. Oh. And unwind your legs. Give everything a little movement. Oh, and then pause and feel and see. Yeah, hopefully it's the same on your mat as it is on mine. which is that now, oh yeah, the whole body feels with that kind of nice sense of length and softness. So we're going to come to a seated position, but in the meantime, you can do a little back massage before you get yourself up to there. So you can roll to your side. Some people like to rock up. When I do yin, I like to be a little soft all the time. So just sort of taking a moment to lay on my side before sitting up in a more kind of softer way. But you know, sometimes rocking and rolling is fun, so I'm with you. So I'm getting back up a little bit, and then I'm going to take my legs out wide. So this is where, for me, a couple of pillows or a blanket or something like that would be really useful. So for some of us, when the legs go wide, the pelvis leans backwards. And if that's you, one, there's nothing wrong with you. It's your genetics. So don't worry about that. But if that's you, you can either stack up on some blankets, sometimes lifting yourself, or sit up on a throw pillow. Sometimes just getting the hips elevated is all you need. And then for other people, it'll be better to bend at the knee. So you can put a pillow under each knee, so you almost have more like a, you know, like a spidery sort of leg. If I just triggered spider haters, I apologize. I like to use a rolled up blanket. So I roll a blanket up and put that under my knees because I tend to hyperextend. I have tighter quads and looser hamstrings, and that creates an imbalance in my knees. So this helps me prevent myself from doing things I shouldn't. So I've got a V. It's not as wide as I can go. It's a little bit shy of that because I don't want to put too much pressure on my hips. They're getting older now. If your hips are younger and you want to go right out to your extremes, you can. Just make sure, again, that there's nothing that in the joint that feels sharp or that feels like a burning, a heat sensation. Numbness and tingling is your body's way of telling you to kind of adjust it again. So you can change the shape. So we're going to go straight down the middle with this fold, and you might be up here going down the middle, or it's possible that your face is resting on the floor because you have a bigger range of motion than I have. So I'm kind of in my, you know, in whatever my range of motion allows. I'm bringing my pelvis forward, and then I've built a little yoga Stonehenge of props here to hang out. And then we're just allowing ourselves to feel like, where do I feel the sensation? So I've got some sensation in my inner thighs. I've got sensation around the back of my glute and in, you know, a little bit in my low back. Especially if I lean to one direction a little bit and then the other, I can feel a little bit of sensation there. It's not a bad sensation. It feels nice. And I'm going for just that, where do I feel something? Because that's the edge. The edge is not, oh, I'm to the point where I'm almost can't stand it anymore. That's past the edge. The edge in yin, and it's really important to grasp this because we can do damage to our tissues if we're too aggressive. So the edge is, I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything, oh, I feel something. That's it, that's the edge. And that's where you start. And then if it sort of invites you in, the sensation dissipates, you don't feel anything anymore, then you can surf in a little bit further toward the sensation and see if you can find it again. All the while not being aggressive. I've been doing yin yoga regularly for about 15 years now, pretty close to that. And I've learned a lot about it, but it's been really slow learning. It did not reveal itself to me quickly. It took years of practicing for me to really start to grasp the concept of the edge. So hopefully I'm articulating it well, and if I'm not, then you'll probably have a similar experience to me and just learn it slow. So we're going to stay with this shape for one more minute. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of movement. I love to spread my toes out and move them a little bit and lean a little side to side. Again, not in a fidgety way, but in a consciously surfing the sensation kind of way. So we're going to take one more big breath. Let it go with a sigh. And then you're going to inhale your way up. Oh. Now, we're going to do something on one leg, and I'm going to give you several options. The first option is a half butterfly. So you can bring the leg in so it's straight in front of you, and then bend the other one, and then continue in a forward bend. Or you can do a shoelace or a square pose. Now, some people can do both, one or the other, and some of us, one is better than the other. So the shoelace, you're going to stack your knees as close as you can to on top of each other. When I do this one, it pushes me over to the side. So for me, the better option is the square, which is like that. And you can take a block or a pillow or whatever you've got handy and kind of let your leg go out at a different angle so it doesn't rest up here on top. You're going for kind of a square with the thighs. And that's where it gets its name. And then the other option would be to keep this same shape idea, but do it laying on your back. So you lie down, put one leg on top of the other, and if you can hold on to the ankles, or the shins, that's fine. And you can also do it by resting a foot on the floor. So taking one of those shape options that's going to work best for you at your house, and then jiggling into it. So again, kind of get in the shape and then explore it. And you'll find like, oh, I need a little bit of support under that knee, or I need a little bit of support for this ankle. Like, you'll find all those answers. And then once you've got it settled in, take a deep breath and then let yourself kind of just soften into it. Whether that's folding forward or sitting up or lying down. But allowing yourself to, you can even add a side bend or a twist. But allow yourself to settle into whatever that shape is that you chose. So kind of noticing this one might be a spicier shape, and your body might be sending you signals that you should change the shape a little bit. Or it might be kind of just the beginnings of that sense of letting go might be happening. So we're going to stay for one more minute here. I've been targeting this class on the inner and outer hips intentionally. The inner line of our hip carries the acupuncture meridians for the liver, the kidneys, and the outer hip carries acupuncture meridian for the gallbladder, and then up the back of the spine we get the urinary bladder. So those are pairs. The liver pairs with the gallbladder, and the kidneys pair with the urinary bladder in where they kind of support each other in Chinese medicine. Now, this is a very blunt tool compared to acupuncture, which is a very precise tool. So we're going to take a big breath. You're going to let yourself float up. We're going to lean back and undo the legs, and then shake things out. In Chinese medicine, all of the internal organs also correspond to they have different emotional states and different things. So the liver corresponds to anger and frustration. The gallbladder, similarly. I like to refer to the gallbladder as the pet peeve line, because it's the little things that, like, little irritations. It's also the opposite of that, a feeling of compassion, a feeling of contentment. So when we balance it, we feel content and able to, you know, functionally or in a more clear-headed way view the world. When they're out of balance, we might feel those kind of feelings of anger, frustration, grouchiness. So we're going to do this other side. And then the kidney line, those are related to feelings of helplessness, feelings of grief, which we might be feeling all of those kinds of feelings. So get yourself in your other side. We're going to jiggle it around a little bit. And then allow yourself to fold in. And so meridians run in the superficial fascia that lives under the skin. And so the way that acupuncture works is the needle goes in, it goes through the layer of skin into that superficial fascia. They twist the needle, it pulls the fascia almost like it's almost like when you put a fork in spaghetti and you kind of turn it, it kind of creates a little tug in the fascia in a very specific place. And those specific places that are on a chart, you can look them up if you want to. There's, you know, very detailed maps of where these meridians go. When that tissue is looked at under an electron microscope or when it's explored laparoscopically, there appear to be a kind of gathering of fluid, a gathering of hyaluronic acid in that area in the body. And so that's pretty intriguing. As we go forward with scientific exploration of some of these esoteric ideas, we might find out more about it, but it's pretty interesting. And so we're not doing anything even remotely in that precise, but we're stretching or kind of putting pressure on these areas of our connective tissue, which is an interesting notion, right? So does it, in fact, bring me to a sense of more ability to feel compassionate for myself? Does it bring me a sense of well-being? Does it make me feel more content with what's happening, even though I can't change the circumstances and I might want to? Can I find contentment in being uncertain? You're going to find the answer, right? I can't give you the answer. But if it does do that, then that's interesting. So we're going to stay here for about another minute and 15 seconds. Just breathing into these shapes. Sometimes I notice, like, oh yeah, I can feel a little bit of the tension that I've had my head looking into a computer screen for a few hours this afternoon. I can feel that kind of, that sense of my neck releasing some of that shape. It feels really lovely. So we're gonna take a nice big breath. Let go with a really big, and then you're gonna inhale your way up. Lean back and unpretzel your legs. If you're laying on your back, you don't have to do that part, but you can unpretzel your legs. Now, I'm gonna switch this whole thing around. So for those of you that are just joining me for the Candlelight Yin, thank you so much for coming, and namaste.